This program is brought to you by Connie Doto of Connie Doto Realty Group, 119 Pleasant Street, Methuen. When you want results, don't make a move without us.
Welcome to Doto Real Estate View. I'd like to welcome here today, we're honored to have Heather Robertson from the MSPCA here in Methuen at Nevins Farm. She's been with the MSPCA. She was a volunteer since 2004, and now she is the outreach coordinator at the facility. She joined them as a staff. How recently did you join?
Gosh, about 6 years ago.
Oh, so 6 years ago. She joined them because she agreed with their philosophy and her love for animals. So I'd like to welcome Heather. Thank you for coming. And prior to being at the MSPCA, you were in corporate America doing marketing, and you said, enough of this, I want to attend to animals. I guess a question, MSPCA, we throw that around. What does that actually stand for?
It stands for Massachusetts Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals.
Okay, great, great. Tell us a little bit about the MSPCA here in Methuen at Nevins Farm.
Sure. The facility that's known as Nevins Farm has been part of the MSPCA since 1917. It was actually a gift from a local philanthropist, Harriet Nevins, who felt strongly about animals and the plight of animals, especially those working horses in Boston, and decided to do something about it. So originally, Nevins Farm was intended as a rest home for horses that were at work in Boston. Of course, the mode of transportation back in 1917 was primarily through carriages driven by horses. So drivers could bring a horse here to Nevins Farm to rest for a month and would be able to swap out the horses the next month, and that way the horses were in much better overall health, having some rest.
So with it being, typically they took in a lot of horses back then in the 1917s, how much land is there?
We have about 55 acres. It's a little bit split up now because of Route 213 and 28, but we've managed to fill most of that 55 acres now with pastures for horses, with our, I say new, but it's 7 years old, with our adoption center for small domestic animals, horses and dogs. We put it to good use.
And I know, and we'll get more into the types of animals that you have there, but I know it's one of the only places in this area that do accept horses in.
Yes, well, that's one thing that is of note. There aren't that many places, if people can't keep their horses any longer, there aren't that many facilities or rescue groups that are open admissions, meaning that they take in any animal under any circumstance. And it's been, with the economy recently, a real big need. People can't afford their horses and need someplace to bring them. So we've had record year after record year for horse surrenders, unfortunately.
How many horses did you take in for 2012? Just curious of numbers.
Final numbers, I believe, were close to 80. So that is actually the first year in the last 5 that we haven't had a record. Our highest, I think, in the last few years has been 80 in 2011. So we saw a small little dip last year, and hoping that we're now in a downward cycle. We'd love to take in no horses. That means we're not needed.
Right, right. Reasons for people bringing their horses to you? I mean,
well, economy plays a big factor, of course, but I think it's primarily because they're so expensive to keep. And if people are suddenly finding themselves in a position where maybe they've lost their job or their health has changed, because let's face it, caring for a horse is very labor intensive, it's very physical, and if their status changes with regards to their health or their finances, they have to make some very tough decisions.
What's the cost to caring for a horse, say on a monthly basis? I mean, I'm sure it's
That's a
up
great
there.
question. I think that it will depend on whether you're able to keep a horse on your property. As you know, some towns and communities don't allow horses or require a maximum number of acreage for keeping a horse at home. So in those cases, they might have to find a boarding facility, which is very expensive. It can run anywhere from $250 on the low side to hundreds and hundreds of dollars, maybe upwards of $800 just to board the horse. And that's not accounting for the hay, the grain, the farrier, the vet. So it can vary widely, but I would say that you should budget probably at least $400 a month.
Oh, I can see, like you said, the economy.
Yes.
People not being able to, you know, put food on the table for their family,
Right.
let alone for a horse. Oh. What's the biggest volume of animals that you take in? What types?
Probably, I would have to say it's cats, believe it or not. The property as a whole takes in over 7,000 animals a year, and more than 50% of those are in fact cats, and that's because the area doesn't really have a strong spay-neuter program for cats, and that's something that we're working with other agencies to really change in this area. There's a serious overpopulation of cats that are allowed to run, and they're either strays or they're feral populations, or they've lost their way, and if they're not spayed and neutered, they're of course going to have babies, and those babies will have more babies. So it's a serious issue, and we're really working hard to address that. We'd love to see, again, just as with horses, we'd love to see no cats needing our help, but we're working towards it.
Now, if somebody brings an animal to you, how do you, I mean, do you accept all animals? I mean, I guess that's the...
Again, we're an open admissions facility, and that means that we take in every animal under any circumstance, and we work very hard for each animal to try and find them the right situation. We start with a basic evaluation. We get information from a previous owner. We ask them a series of questions so that we understand what the animal likes, what it's been used to, and we then do our own evaluation to see if in fact, yes, this is what the previous owner has told us about this animal, and it helps us identify the right type of adoptive home, so that when people come to Nevins Farm to visit, we can match them up. We're really about matchmaking.
What's the process of finding that perfect home for that pet?
Again, another great question. We use as many resources as we have. We use our website, mspca.org, to allow people to check us out, see what we have available for adoption. We have people calling us all the time to find out what kind of animals we have. People stop in and visit. If you've ever been to Nevins Farm, you know it's a very busy facility. So people will just make a weekly pilgrimage, if you will, to see who's available for adoption. We depend on social media as well, and a lot of word of mouth really helps.
That's great. In terms of operating this massive facility with the number of animals that you do take in, how do you do it? We
depend on volunteers. I have to say we have a very, very small staff for the large number of animals that we care for and the programs that we offer to the community. And the majority of what we do is because we have incredible volunteers. We have I would say over 400 volunteers that are active in some way, shape, or form, and they come in and do everything from washing the dishes and the linens to walking the dogs, cuddling the cats, medicating cats. We have a whole group of volunteers that will come in and help just for special events. We have to do special events to help us raise money for care. I don't know if most people realize this, we don't get any funding from state or federal government. We depend on special events and donations to do what we do every day. And thankfully our volunteers pull together and will help host everything from a wine tasting and an art show to our annual holiday tree lighting or our walk for animals. So they make a huge difference in every way, shape, and form.
If people in the community want to get involved, what are some of the things that you need other than people giving their time? I know there's been times that I've dropped off blankets.
Yes.
That's been a big
We actually
thing.
have a wish list, and it's on our website, and it's available in our adoption center. And a lot of the things that are on that wish list are things that you might have at home, in a closet, in a basement, in the attic. You mentioned blankets and linens. We always need more blankets and linens. We need things as simple as pens and paper to help print out adoption applications. We need bleach and tissues and paper towels and all kinds of different things that are probably in your home, especially if you're going to pack for a move. You know, when you're kind of downsizing and cleaning up, think about donating some of the excess product and sending it our way.
That's great. I mean, because I know a lot of people would like to help. They may not have time, but if there's things that they can donate, you know, to help you, certainly that's something that would be of help to you. You know, in real estate, as you know, people are looking to sell or buy a home. We always look when they have pets. What are some of the things that people should think about when they're selling their home and when they're going to move to a home? I think it's, you know, there's a lot of things you need to factor in. So I'm just curious of some of your thoughts. We talk as real estate agents to customers to secure, make sure they're safe when people go into the home. But there's a lot of other things that you may have some tidbits to share with people on both ends.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I would say is that a move can be very stressful. So if you are a homeowner and you're in the process of selling or even thinking about selling and relocating, realize that it's going to be an adjustment no matter what kind of animal you have, whether it's a rabbit, a cat, a dog, or a horse. You're going to have to give some thought to where you're going. Interestingly, one of the top reasons that animals are surrendered to our facility is because people are moving. And they haven't really planned on what they're going to be doing with their cat or their dog. So you do have to think well in advance about where you're moving, are pets going to be allowed, and then the actual process of moving is something to consider. And if you are taking your pet with you, knowing that it's going to be a stressful thing, giving your pet extra time to acclimate, talking to your vet well in advance is going to be critical.
In terms of when people are looking for a home, I mean, there's certain ththings that typically people would want. They have a dog, a backyard. Are there other things they should factor in?
Yes, we get asked that question a lot. And of course, everybody would dream of having a fenced-in backyard where Fido can run around and play, and that's high on a wish list, I'm sure, for a lot of people. But sometimes a fenced yard isn't the best option for certain dogs. Sometimes it's easy to stick Fido out in the backyard and kind of forget about him or her. And dogs are pack animals. They want to be with their family. They want to be with you in the home and what you're doing. So every dog is going to be unique. Is a backyard the best environment for that dog? Who knows? Looking at your home or potential home as well, is it going to need some accommodations for an elderly pet? as an example. Is the pet going to be able to negotiate some steep stairs or linoleum on the kitchen floor, where a pet who's a little arthritic might have some difficulties navigating? That's something to consider as well.
And again, we always get the question, what is it that they should do to take the cat or the dog into their home when they first go? Should they take the dog or cat there before they move in or after? I mean, that's...
Great. Well, we can back up for a few
Yeah.
seconds. I like to think of a move with an animal in kind of 3 parts. So when you've purchased your home, you're getting ready to move. Think about the pre-move part of it. You want to make sure, first of all, that your cat or your dog is microchipped. There's always a chance that during a move or in a new home that a pet might escape, and so take the precaution before you actually move to make sure your pet has this form of permanent identification. Make sure it's got a collar and tags. Even if they don't typically wear it, make sure you have a collar and tag for your cat or dog beforehand. And I recommend double tagging, meaning that the tag has your old address and your new address, so that at any point along the move process, a finder will be able to contact you and talk to your vet about getting any records if you're going to a brand new location and you have to change your vet. You want to make sure you have a smooth transition for your pet's health as well. During an actual move, you want to make sure that your pet is secure. So if it's a cat, you've got a sturdy carrier, that you've looked at it in advance, it's actually going to be secure and the pet can't escape. Even confining your dog during the move while the movers are lugging boxes in and out. You want to make sure that the dog is confined in one room, that the movers aren't going in and out, and there's no open doors. So making sure they're safe during an actual move is important. And then when you finally get in your new home, I recommend strongly setting up your pet in one room of the home, especially with cats. Cats have a very difficult time adjusting, so start them out in a small space, maybe a small den or even just the bathroom. Give them their food and water and litter pan. Let them get used to the sights and sounds and smells of the home, and not be overwhelmed with an entire building that they could easily hide in. If it's a dog, walk them through the home on a leash the first time, and make sure that they have a safe place that they are familiar with, such as a crate. A lot of people nowadays do crate training with their dogs, and making sure that they have their familiar comfy blanket that they know the smells of in that crate will go a long way to easing their anxiety. And of course, then as the days go by and they're getting a little bit more comfortable, expanding the space, maybe allowing the